Hey everybody, it's JJ here and welcome back to the channel. I'm excited about tonight's video because tonight we're going to be talking about one of my favorite genres that I enjoy reading. And of course, that is the apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic, or survivalist type genre. I dig these stories. These are the type of stories that make you think that you are the main character and could I survive? That is the question. In a post-apocalyptic society, when all of law and order and everything that resembles a civilized society has fallen apart and been destroyed and wiped clean. Could I be one of the last ones standing? So, we're going to talk about my top 5 stories. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about each one of these, but I am going to talk just briefly about it and just give a quick synopsis or a premise of what the story is about. No zombie stories are going to be on this list. And the reason is because I love the zombie genre and I feel like that deserves to have its own video. So, I will be doing a top 5 zombie novels later. But getting onto this, let's talk about my top 5 apocalyptic stories. I'm going to give a quick sort of honorable mentions. First of all, The Hatchet by Gary Paulson, I believe is how you say. I dug The Hatchet growing up. It was one of the stories that I read when I was in the 5th grade. I love the concept of a surviving with just a hatchet after a plane crash and things like that. So that's one of my honorable mentions. The second one is, of course, The Fireman by Joe Hill. I love that book. Now, those two are definitely in my top 10. They're definitely in my top 7. But I have to give quick little honorable mentions. So those two are out there. So here they are, the top 5. Number 1, and these are in no particular order. But this is Total War, which is a part of the Survivalist series by Jerry Ahern. This was put out in the 1980s. This was a part of that men's adventures that were coming out during the 80s when, the Cold War was completely at its height. And we had things like G.I. Joe, and we were fighting terrorists, and we were fighting the Soviets. And basically, this is when the threat of nuclear war was at its highest peak outside of today's world. But anyway, this is one of those things where we always thought that, we were going to get bombed. We had stories like the in movies like Red Dawn coming out and Mad Max and things like that. And it's the story of a guy who is a survivalist. He's a former CIA analyst, a former military guy, and he's away on business up in Canada. His name is John Rourke, and he is just trying to get home after the Soviets have completely annihilated and nuked the entire country of the United States. And so that's the story of him trying to get home. I think there were maybe 25 or 30 books in this series. I own the first 10. They are great books. I enjoy them. I'd like to finish out my collection. If you've read it, let me know. Jerry Ahern, The Survivalist. The next one is, some of you may have seen the movie with Kevin Costner, but this was book obviously came first, and the book is richer, the book is better, the book is deeper, and the book just has so much more depth to the story. And that, of course, is The Postman by David Brin. I love this story. This is a story about what gives small communities hope. And of course, we know one of the best things that gives us hope is just being able to communicate with one another, especially our loved ones when we don't know where they're at. This is the story of a guy who finds a bag of mail and an old postal uniform and starts living the lie as if he is a postman and the government has been reestablished. So, Postman by David Brin, absolutely love it. Now, the next one is one of those that kind of kicked off the EMP story type stories. No, it is not 1 Second After. 1 Second After was a part of that group that kicked off the EMP type of stories, but also this one right here connected with me better, and that, of course, is Going Home by A. American. I think it's called, he's actually, the pen name is Angry American. This is what does it mean to live in a world and try and get home to your family in a post EMP world. Now, the difference between, I think, the survivalist is John Rourke here is trying to get home, but his better nature, sticking up for the good, the weak against the bad guys, is something that continues to delay his journey. He is constantly finding people who are in trouble, and he wants to help them. Our character in this one, with Going Home, is Morgan Carter, and Morgan is coming up against the worst of society. What happens when society collapses and the worst began to take over? The worst began to be the ones that, sort of jump to the top of the food chain in a way. And so that's the story. He encounters some of the most heinous type of people in all the books. I think there's like 10 or 12 books in this series. I have every single one of them. It's a great series. I enjoy. I devoured this thing in like maybe 3 or 4 months. Every single book. It was that good of a series. So next one, more of the AI, more of the robots, like an iRobot, and that, of course, is Roboapocalypse by Daniel H. Wilson. This is a story. I haven't read this in like 4 years, but basically, everybody's living with robots. Everybody's living in smart homes. Hello, does that sound familiar today? AI is starting to take off, and then all of a sudden, the robots just start taking over. I mean, the Roombas and the May robots and the robots that deliver your food to you, or the robots that mix your drinks. They just start taking over, and the next thing you know, we're living in a world where humanity is fighting back against these robots that have sort of become self-aware and are beginning to attack and kill all of humanity. It is like Terminator on steroids, but it is so realistic because when we think about robotics and everything that happens in robotics today, there's a lot of eerie similarities to life today. So, Robo-Apocalypse, it's amazing, it's great. Now, this last one, I think is probably the best apocalyptic novel of all time, and that, of course, is The Doorstopper, and that is Stephen King's The Stand. Well over 1,000 something pages. In fact, the uncut edition is well over 1,140 pages. So, um, what can you say? Good, evil. And there's two different types of people in the world. And when this pandemic virus just wipes everybody out, what is left standing has to choose a side. And that is the side where you go with Randall Flagg or Mother Abigail, and everything's coming together. So, The Stand, I am going to do a deep dive on every single one of these books, but The Stand is definitely going to be one of those that takes maybe a 3-part series of videos just to talk about it because it is that rich and that depth. I know a lot of people out there, they don't like Stephen King because they say they don't like horror. And I understand that. If that's the case, don't read Pet Sematary, don't read Salem's Lot, don't read The Shining, don't read things like that. But The Stand is one of those that I think the characters that come alive and how complex and flawed and amazing they are. This is one of those stories I think every writer should take the time, take a full month, and just sit down and read The Stand because it is such an amazing lesson on how to build an epic world that so many people lose track of today. Like I said, I'm going to do a deep dive on this entire book later on, but I'm going to do that after I do a reread. And right now is prime to do a reread because there's getting ready to be an anthology called The End of the World as We Know It that's coming out with stories that are set in the world of The Stand. And I really want to read that as well. So, there you go. Those are my top 5 apocalyptic stories. This changes all the time. It depends on what month I'm in, and it depends on what kind of mood I am. I have so many apocalyptic stories. It's not even funny. So if you have a favorite one, or if there's one that I left off the list, and you say, "Hey, what about this one?" Drop it in the comments below. Let me know if you've read any of these. Also, let me know what your thoughts are on each one of these books. Anyway, it's been great talking to you all. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate the support, and I'll see you all in the next video. Later.